Our next contestant, John Andrews, Superheroes and Superpowers. Superheroes and Superpowers, John Andrews.
Raise your hand if you wish superheroes were real. Okay, so everyone, except me. I don't wish they were real, because I know they're real. Mr. Chair, fellow Toastmasters, how would you describe Superman? Is he reduced to a whimpering, whining weakling when he gets near a green rock? Or is he faster than a speeding bullet and more powerful than a locomotive? It's the second, right? That's why you call him Superman, not kryptonite wussy. You define him by his strengths instead of his weaknesses. Do that more often and you'll see people with superpowers live among us. Here's a superpower you never considered, but the following four men have it: Ted Turner, Tommy Hilfiger, Steve Jobs, and Richard Branson. You know them as innovators, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and you're right, but did you also know that Turner, Hilfiger, Jobs, and Branson were all diagnosed with dyslexia? I've read articles saying they overcame this challenge to succeed, but did they really? Because normally when a bunch of successful people have something in common, we hold up that thing as part of the reason why. Could that possibly be the case this time? I had to investigate. So I invited the four guys to lunch at my house. None came. Steve Jobs had a good excuse, all right? That's when I remembered my friend Jay. Jay is a very successful local entrepreneur who has dyslexia. And that makes five. Can we call it a trend yet? I said, Jay, weird question, but has dyslexia ever been an advantage to you in the business world? And he said yes, in two ways. One, dyslexics tend to be very good at reading people. Reading text, not so much. But when they speak to you, they pick up on your nonverbal cues and hear what you're not telling them. So never play poker with one, you can't bluff them. The second thing he said is that dyslexics tend to be very creative problem solvers. And that's because the very act of learning to read instills certain conventions and methodologies in your thinking. Because dyslexics don't learn to read in the typical way, they don't see the world with the same structures and limitations that you've picked up. Whereas you come upon a problem and feel like you're staring at a wall, to them, it's just a speed bump. And hey, thanks for sticking with me on that analogy. I know it's really dangerous to talk about walls these days. So I said, hold on, Jay. You're telling me you have the power to tell what your clients are really thinking, like Charles Xavier from X-Men, and then you craft innovative solutions to their problems, like Iron Man? Jay, that is exactly what an entrepreneur does, at least a successful one. No wonder you're thriving, just like those other four guys. Toastmaster, dyslexia is no disability. If you're an entrepreneur, it's a sweet set of superpowers. And because the words diagnosis, disability, and disorder start with the same letter, I call them the unholy trinity. And our knee-jerk reaction to the unholy trinity is to suppress the bad at all costs, but that can have unintended consequences. See, back in the 90s, my generation lived in fear of ADD and ADHD. Our parents pumped us full of drugs so we would just sit still. And today we have an obesity epidemic because we just sit still. Funny how life works. There's a woman named Debbie, single mom of three. The youngest is a boy with ADHD. Sounds like she had her hands full, eh? Debbie knew all about those drugs, but said, no, I am not doping you up, son. You work off that energy. Run around the block, ride your bike, do something. I sort of like swimming. I will buy you a pool pass. Just come home tired, all right? One day when she went to pick him up at the pool, swim coach met her and said, I want your boy on my team. He's got a lot of potential. But training is going to be all day, every day, very intense. Can your boy handle that? Debbie looked at him and said, did you just offer to wear my son out for me? Debbie's little boy with ADHD, who one teacher said would never amount to anything, grew up to be the most decorated Olympian of all time. Yes, I am talking about Michael Phelps. ADHD helped Michael Phelps train harder than anyone thought possible. A virtually limitless supply of energy, that's no disorder. That's a superpower. And all of this is because your abilities are a lot like a waterbed. You press down in one area, it just presses up somewhere else. Exactly the thing that makes you deficient here is making you efficient over there. And the unholy trinity is only bad if you see it as weakness. But it has given powers to a lot of people, like Ted Turner, Tommy Hilfiger, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Michael Phelps. And I bet you've already thought of someone in your life, just like I couldn't help but think of my friend Jay when I was writing this. So when I asked you earlier, you wished it were true. Now, make some noise if you believe people with superpowers live among us. Oh, that's a lot of minds to change in 7 minutes. Contest judges, write that part down. We have mislabeled these things handicaps, disabilities, special needs, and that's all garbage. What we need is a term that speaks to the strengths instead of the weaknesses. The term I recommend is superpowers. You like that? Feel free to use it. And remember, superheroes help you when you call them. That's why Gotham City has a bat signal, so they can call Batman for help. Are you willing to call these real-life superheroes for help? Will you invite them into your home, your business, your life, so they can save the day? Toastmaster, see the abilities and imagine the possibilities. Mr. Chair.